Hi everybody, this is the Baseball Head, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the People's Champion. Your host, and welcome back to the Baseball Head 2, and hopefully like this video and hit that subscribe button. So, as you know, beginning of the off season, the Dodgers are taking their flowers and blowing kisses to the fans. But I thought this was a very interesting article, and I watched this clip, 3-minute clip, from Craig Carton, and it's interesting because it questions Shohei Ohtani. Now, as you know, Craig Carton is a guy that worked at WFAN for many, many years, left and then returned. Part of the big reason that Carton left was because he had a gambling addiction, and also he was like grifting people, just random people, and he went to jail, went to prison, federal prison, for quite a few years, and then he returned. But he was a gambler and is a recovering gambler. So he would know about some of the stuff we're talking about in this video. So anyone that thinks that I'm not an expert, I don't gamble, I don't know how to do that stuff, I don't endorse it, I think it's terrible. I mean, it almost ruined this guy's life. You know, this gambling addiction that Carton had ruined his life for a long time. And it took him, it's good to see that he's back on the mend, keeping his nose clean, But there's some awful announcing. Craig Carton wonders if Shohei Ohtani's interpreter was just a gambling buddy. Oh, really? Now, your host has had some questions. I'm always full of questions. I've had a lot of questions about this particular player for the last 2 years. I have had plenty of videos on this channel. I'm not part of the industry, and I don't want to be part of the industry, so that's why your host... It's funny, I was thinking, maybe someday I'll get invited to Gary, Keith, and Ron. I think that kind of went out the window about a month ago. But anyway, Shohei Ohtani is the biggest star in the sport, but he's a bit of a mystery. And I have questions about his abilities to do what he's been able to do and not get hurt. And at least be able to recover quickly. He's had some elbow issues in his career where he's missed some time, but the ability to come back from this is very odd. It's very suspicious. And none of the media who complained and are keeping guys like Barry Bonds out of the Hall of Fame, Roger Clemens out of the Hall of Fame, all these players from the 90s, they all knew about those players in the 90s, folks. And they know what's going on behind the scenes with this guy, but they're all highlighting it. So the one thing I've learned over the last few years now, a lot of stuff in our society is fake. Well, anyway, let me get into this. Maybe we haven't really investigated why he has the interpreter when he clearly understands English. After hearing Shohei Ohtani speak English during the Los Angeles Dodgers World Series celebration, Craig Carton wondered whether he might not need an interpreter. Now, he did speak English last year. Perfect English last year. But apparently he said a lot more. A hell of a lot more this year. The Dodgers celebrated their 9th World Series championship in franchise history, a parade that ended at a rally at Dodger Stadium Monday afternoon. During the celebration, Otani took the microphone to address the crowd in English. Much to Stephen A. Smith's dismay, Otani has conducted interviews with an interpreter throughout his MLB career. I have a question about Stephen A. Smith. Does he say anything that's really all that interesting? Does he say anything that's really thought-provoking? Not really. Although he has given occasional answers in English, but after hearing Ohtani address a crowd of nearly 60,000 Dodgers fans in English, Craig Carton wondered if the superstar baseball player had another reason for using an interpreter. I'm going to put the cards on the table when it comes to this, these players talking in English. All right, and this is not politically correct, but if you're making $400 million, it would be nice if you spoke English. If you're making millions and millions of dollars, the least you can do when you have half a year where you're just sitting around working out, it would be nice if these players spoke the English, spoke to the audience. Isn't that being respectful? We've seen players learn English, but if you're making $400 million, wouldn't it be nice if this guy spoke English to the audience, to the customers? Just a thought. You won't hear this anywhere else. Because I'm getting tired of watching these, these sort of walk-off celebrations, and they bring in the player doesn't speak English when he clearly speaks English, and you got to have the interpreter speak for him. Doesn't make any sense, and I'm kind of getting tired of it. Quote, I applaud him for doing that, and it might have been hard for him to speak English in front of so many people, but he clearly does not need an interpreter. Carton concluded on his daily podcast with co-host Tyrone Johnson. Well, Ireton has been Ohtani's interpreter since 2024. Ireton replaced Ippei Misahara, who was fired in March 2024 and later charged by federal prosecutors with bank fraud, alleging he stole nearly $17 million from Ohtani to pay off gambling debts. MLB cleared Ohtani of any wrongdoing and similarly was not charged in the scandal, with authorities deeming Ohtani a victim of fraud. Now, a couple of things. These kind of investigations go on for years, okay? Apparently, this has been going on for years with the money being gambled. Millions and millions of dollars being gambled. You're telling me that the IRS isn't going back to Ohtani and telling him that money's being taken out of his account? They're not sending him a letter? They're not informing him? His lawyer's not being told what's going on? Very strange. I think a lot of guys speak perfect English. They just don't want to screw the English media, Carton said. But here's why I'm going to take this one mini step too far. If you go back to when he was with the Angels in his first year with the Dodgers, when he had Ippei as his interpreter, maybe he was an interpreter for him. Is there any possibility that the real reason he was keeping Ippei around? And I'm asking the question. I'm not accusing. Is there a possibility that Ippei's only real role was to be a gambler? Well, was to be a patsy. That's why I kept him around, is to be a patsy. There's no other reason to have him around. It's not a gambling, but it's a patsy. Carton, who was once charged with federal crimes and convicted of fraud himself, noted it often takes months or even years for federal investigations to be completed, whereas Ohtani was cleared very quickly of any wrongdoing. Now, if you paid attention to this scandal with the NBA, they were investigating these players and the coach as far back as 2019. So they've been watching them for a long time, and with the Italian Mafia, they don't let up. They watch them all the time. Carton continues, but if we agree that Otani, Shohei, speaks perfect English, and we agree that having the interpreter is more out of ease, and not having to deal with the English-speaking media, Carton continued, maybe we haven't really investigated why he has the interpreter, why he had the original interpreter for as long as he did, when he clearly understands English. Well, like I said, if you're going to make $400 million, okay, if you're going to make $400 million, the least you could do is speak English to the audience and respond in English. I think is that so much to ask? Is it so much to ask? I don't think it is. Ohtani has been playing baseball in the U.S. for 8 years. While it's great he was able to address fans in a few sentences in English, that in no way proves Ohtani still doesn't need an interpreter. Taking questions during press conferences or conducting one-on-one interviews is very different than addressing crowds with a few prepared sentences. To be fair, Carton isn't the only person speculating right now. Now, again, I would mention this just to sort of go back a little bit. When the whole scandal came out with Ohtani's interpreter, the Dodgers were playing in South Korea, in that sort of showcase series against the Padres. And it was ESPN who was investigating the whole situation. And they interviewed Masahara. And they asked him, did Ohtani know about it? He said he did know about it, that he helped him pay off some of his debt. Now, what's interesting is that when the Dodgers and MLB got wind of that, they basically had to get rid of Masahara. They had to fire him. But before that, he went in front of the Dodgers. This is the interpreter. Went in front of the Dodgers players and told them what happened. It was almost like a confessional. He told them what happened in front of them, but he said it in English. Now, if Ohtani doesn't understand the language, why is the interpreter saying it in English and not the Japanese version or the Japanese translation? Makes no sense. Unless, of course, this is all a facade. This is all fake. Everything about Ohtani, in my opinion, is fake. And we've seen Major League Baseball have a history of doing this, creating these false idols for us to cheer on. Barry Bonds, he was a false idol till he couldn't play anymore. Roger Clemens, false idol till he couldn't play anymore. So many players and so many great players cast aside by Major League Baseball. And really great people are cast aside by Major League Baseball. You can go back as far back as Lou Gehrig. Lou Gehrig made so much money for the New York Yankees, they couldn't give him a job. He had to beg the mayor of New York to give him a job so he could make some money for him and his wife after he got sick. But this is the history of Major League Baseball. They build these people up. It's all fake, especially with Ohtani. This is fake. Everything about it is fake. I saw pictures of him when he was with the Angels in the beginning. Not a very big guy. How does a guy go from hitting 16 home runs to 50 home runs over the course of 8 years, and he's into his 30s now? We've only seen this one other time in the history of the sport. It's all there. It's all laid out for us. People have to accept it. People have to understand it, what we're dealing with here. And then we got the gambling situation. And baseball has a history of hiding gambling scandals. They have a history of it. Pete Rose was a known gambler in the 70s, but he was making a lot of money. He was filling the ballpark trying to chase down Ty Cobb. Once he stopped chasing down Ty Cobb's records and bringing people in the ballpark, he was useless to him. And they put the full force of their investigators on him. Another couple guys. This goes back really far, right after the Black Sox scandals. Ty Cobb and Trish Speaker were involved with gamblers and cheating. And that was swept under the rug. You didn't hear anything about it back then, But to be honest with you, Ohtani's fake. I believe he speaks English. I believe, just based off the numbers and based off his age and everything else, I believe he's on something, on PEDs. How is he able to pitch on a regular basis after playing an 18-inning game or whatever it was and be effective? It's a little something suspicious there. Well, let me know what you think about this video. And, of course, please subscribe to the Baseball Hit 2. I'll see you later.